Hello, Tony, your deck architect here, back on my channel once more with another deck profile. So it's been a few days since Grand Creators officially hit stores, and I have a ton of deck profiles planned for that. But before we explore any of the new archetypes featured in this set, today we're going to explore a deck that was also low-key featured. Riding in at hyper speed straight from the 2012s, today we're going to be looking at Inzektors. So to provide a bit of a historical dump, the Inzektors were an archetype released way back in 2012 in the set Order of Chaos. Rocking an insect fighter motif, the Inzektors are based off of the widely popular Japanese tokusatsu series Kamen Rider, specifically the 2006 Kamen Rider Kabuto. In that series, the heroes, working for a group called Zekt, would transform into armored superheroes stylized off of different insects. They fought aliens from space while utilizing their unique gimmick of casting off, where, get this, they shed off their outer armor to achieve a sleeker form capable of light speed combat. The Inzektors, drawing from this source, does functionally the same thing. Utilizing their own unique gimmick of equipping and unequipping themselves, the Inzektors activated powerful limitless effects to quickly annihilate boards and build big ones themselves. The deck was such a feared menace in its prime that it was partially responsible for potentially one of the worst formats in Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitive history. So strong was their implementation that not even the limitation of their two best cards could stop the deck from seeing play, and it would require the absolute force that was a tier 0 format before the deck finally cycled out of the meta. So why are we talking about it today? Well, recall back in 2020 when Konami held their Create a Card contest. During this period, players had the opportunity to vote for an archetype from among 20 to receive a new card. And after several bot scandals and a toxicity so bad that it makes Cobras look tame, Inzektors ended up taking the top spot to eventually have a new spell card made for them. Grand Creators finally releases that card, potentially providing the deck the thing it needs to retake the meta once more. Unlike older archetypes, the Inzektor effects have aged incredibly well, considered broken even by today's standards, and this new spell only promises to take that to a whole new level, which is what we're hoping to see as we get through this deck profile today. With that, I believe I've droned long enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Starting off our deck profile with the monsters, each of the Inzektors have a shared effect to equip themselves with another Inzektor monster from the hand or graveyard. And while being equipped, the Inzektors increase the level of the equipped monster with their own. With that being said, the Inzektors are split into two categories from here: the Inzektors you want to equip and the Inzektors you want to have equipped. The former includes our first two monsters in our 3 Inzektor Hornet and 3 Inzektor Ladybug. Both of these monsters have additional effects while being equipped to a monster. In addition to providing their level to the equipped monster, both also increase the equipped monster's attack by their own attack. More importantly, while being equipped, Hornet can send itself to the graveyard to target and destroy a card on the field, while Ladybug can send itself to target and increase one of your monster's levels by up to 2. Both of these effects are not once per turn, which can lead to some pretty crazy combos with multiple Inzektors that can constantly equip, launch, and re-equip them to apply their effects multiple times in a turn. Through this strategy, a single Hornet can decimate a board, while a single Ladybug can set your deck up for a variety of X-deck plays. It's also important to note that Hornet can pop your own cards, which becomes increasingly relevant when it comes to interactions with the latter category of Inzektor monsters. Speaking more on this latter category, we have our 3 Inzektor Dragonfly and 3 Inzektor Centipede. In addition to the basic Inzektor effects, both monsters have trigger effects that trigger whenever a card equipped to them is sent to the graveyard. Dragonfly triggers to special summon another Inzektor from the deck, while Centipede triggers to search for any Inzektor card from your deck. Looking at these two effects relative to our Hornet and Ladybug, it's very easy to see how the deck works. By having Dragonfly or Centipede equip a Hornet or Ladybug, that Hornet or Ladybug can launch itself to either pop a card or change a level. In doing this, you can trigger the Dragonfly or Centipede to then generate advantage. A very basic combo is to use your Dragonfly to equip Hornet or Ladybug to launch them to summon out a Centipede. Centipede can then do the same thing to search for a Dragonfly to repeat the process again later. If you use the Hornet in that transaction, that allows you to pop 2 cards on the field, and if you use the Ladybug instead, that sets you up for a rank 4 or 5 of your choice. And it's this line of play that generates the +1 advantage needed to outspeed your opponent. But we're only scratching the surface with that line of play. See, while the effects of the Inzektors to equip are soft once per turns, the trigger effects of Dragonfly and Centipede are not once per turn at all. This means that as long as you can find ways to continuously drop equips from either one, you can trigger their effects multiple times to generate massive advantage. And that's where Hornet's ability to pop your own cards comes in. By equipping a Hornet to your Dragonfly or Centipede, and then having it pop another card equipped to them, you can trigger their effects twice to produce twice as many special summons or searches. In the case of Dragonfly, you can summon 2 Inzektors who can then potentially equip Hornet to pop more cards equipped to Dragonfly to summon more monsters, turning your basic +1 combo into a launcher for the entirety of your deck. And assuming you're summoning Centipedes with your Dragonfly, these Centipedes will also trigger to grab more cards, which you can also use to enable more plays. This all culminates into one of the most disgusting combo loops that can ever be performed in Yu-Gi-Oh!, with the ceiling for this deck being potentially limitless as long as you have Inzektors left in deck, and a removal quotient of literally any field. And that is precisely what we hope to demonstrate and abuse when we get to our combo component. Now, when I said there were 2 categories in Inzektors, I was technically lying. In fact, there are actually 3. On top of the Inzektors that want to be equipped and the Inzektors that want to equip, there are the third kind, the Giga Inzektors, that independently equip themselves to Inzektors from the hand. These Giga Inzektors include our 2 Inzektor Giga Mantis and 1 Inzektor Giga Weevil. Both Giga Inzektors change the stat of their equipped monster to their own, with Giga Mantis changing the attack to 2400 and Giga Weevil changing the defense to 2600. Furthermore, while being equipped, if either Giga Inzektor would be sent to the graveyard, they can target and revive 1 Inzektor monster from the graveyard. Inzektor Giga Weevil and Giga Mantis are the last pieces of the Inzektor combo that enable your massive plays. Being able to equip themselves to an Inzektor without needing to be equipped by other effects allows them to provide your Inzektors with additional equips. This will be how we can give our Dragonfly or Centipede the additional equips needed to set up further plays with Hornet. And in popping them with Hornet, you can also trigger the Giga Inzektor's own effect to revive Inzektors for further extension, which only serves to make your board even crazier. But even without that context, Inzektor Giga Mantis specifically is a fantastic card to equip. Giga Mantis setting your Inzektor's attack to 2400 means that your Inzektors can consistently get very big to deal with Chungus threats. However, we're playing both Mantis and Weevil because the revival effects are hard once per turns. Thus, we want to have 2 different names of Giga Inzektors to be able to utilize this effect twice for further combo potential. Worst comes to worst, you can always just equip a Giga Inzektor from the graveyard with your Inzektor effects to produce a big statted monster, a very viable strategy especially in a simplified game state. With the Inzektor monsters covered, we wrap up the monster lineup with 2 Battle Wasp Pin the Bullseye, 2 Beetrooper Scale Bomber, and 2 Beetrooper Sting Lancer. You may remember these 3 from our Beetrooper deck profile, where we used all 3 as extenders for the deck. In Inzektors, this is also the case, as all 3 can put themselves onto the field to help our Inzektors facilitate more plays. Sting Lancer in particular is extra useful, as it can shuffle back Inzektors to be summoned again by our Dragonfly. But we're not just playing these 3 monsters for the purpose of extension. If you may notice, all 3 of these monsters are slightly different from our Inzektors, but insects nonetheless. And their differences linked by this single similarity allows them to be bridges for Small World, which can help us search into each other or Inzektors that we need to pop off. Getting into the spells, we waste no time as we begin with a new Inzektor spell to come out of Grand Creators in our 3 Zektrite Ko-Oh. Zektrite Ko-Oh is a normal spell that is always treated as an Inzektor card. You can activate Zektrite Ko-Oh by sending an Inzektor card from either your hand or face up on your field. In doing this, Ko-Oh allows you to take any Inzektor monster from your deck and either special summon it to your field or equip it to an Inzektor monster you control. Alternatively, Ko-Oh can also allow you to equip your Inzektors with any Inzektor equip spell directly from your deck. Ignoring the second part of Ko-Oh's effect for the moment, the first part of this effect is essentially an E-Telly for the Inzektor deck. Being able to turn any Inzektor monster you have in hand or field into another Inzektor monster provides a ton of flexibility. You could turn a dead Category 1 Inzektor like Hornet or Ladybug into a Category 2 Inzektor like Dragonfly or Centipede, that can then equip your set Inzektor to start your plays. Alternatively, you can convert one of your Inzektors that has already used its equip effect into a new Inzektor who hasn't to continue your plays. You can even send an Inzektor to equip an Inzektor with another Inzektor, giving that Inzektor an equip regardless of if it's used its equip effect or not. And, best of all, because it's always an Inzektor card, it can be searched by your Centipede to then have that Centipede be sent to go into Dragonfly, allowing you to essentially commit your Dragonfly Centipede plays twice in one turn without additional cards. And while people argue that the cost for Ko-Oh may be steep, it's very relevant to point out that Ko-Oh sends Inzektor cards from your hand or field, meaning that it can also send Inzektors equipped to other Inzektors as well, not only allowing you to get advantage from Ko-Oh, but also providing you an outlet to trigger your Category 2 Inzektors as well. This can be extremely important in hands where you open Dragonfly Hornet but nothing to destroy, as you can use Ko-Oh to launch the Hornet to equip a Ladybug instead, while also triggering your Dragonfly without having to pop your own cards unnecessarily. Moving on to our next Inzektor spell, we have two Inzektor Sword Zekcalibur. Zekcalibur is an actual equip spell that can equip to any Inzektor monster. While equipped, Zekcalibur provides that monster with 800 extra attack. Furthermore, if Zekcalibur would go from the field to the graveyard, it adds back one Inzektor monster from the graveyard. Functionally, Zekcalibur is played much like your Giga Inzektors, providing additional equips to your other Inzektor monsters to apply their effects again. Like your Giga Inzektors, Zekcalibur also generates you advantage when sent to the graveyard. But unlike the Giga Inzektors, who are hard once per turn and only trigger when sent while equipped, Zekcalibur's add back is not once per turn and can trigger off of being sent to the graveyard unconditionally. This makes it a much more flexible recursion option compared to the Giga Inzektors that you'll commonly be using to grab back the Giga Inzektors to continuously provide equips to your Inzektor monsters. At worst, the card does give your Inzektors 800 additional attack, which can be mixed with your other equip boosts to produce as large as a 3700 attack Inzektor to run over practically anything. Wrapping up our back row and the main deck, we start with the 3 Small World for additional consistency. Thanks to the inclusion of the Beetrooper extenders, we can banish any Inzektor to banish one of them to go into any other Inzektor to get what we need to start our combos. From there, we then have 3 Dark Rule No More and 2 Forbidden Droplets. Because of the nature of Hornet's effect, you do want to go second to provide your Hornet with targets for destruction outside of your own cards. Dark Rules and Forbidden Droplets allows you to turn off your opponent's board to guarantee they cannot stop the Hornet. Furthermore, Droplets also allows us to launch our Inzektor equips, which can also trigger our Category 2 Inzektors as well. Then we have 2 Forbidden Droplets for protection against back row, 1 Call by the Grave for hand traps, 1 Foolish Barrel for dumping our Hornet or Ladybug, 1 Monster Reborn for reviving our Category 2 Inzektors, and 1 Beetrooper Fly and Sting as a negation we can access with our Sting Lancer. Going into the X deck, beginning with the Xyz, we have 1 Inzektor Exostag as our rank 5 of choice. Exostag can detach materials from itself to equip monsters from your opponent's field or graveyard to gain half of that monster's attack. He serves as a decent non-destruction removal that we can make with our Dragonfly Ladybug combo. From there we have 1 Dugaris for reviving our Inzektors, 1 Emerald for recycling our Inzektors, 1 Cicada King for effect negation, and 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus for when any of these Xyz inevitably battle. Going into the links, we have 2 Beetrooper Armorhorn. Armorhorn gives additional normal summons to insects, which we can abuse with our Dragonfly Centipede to search and then immediately normal summon a Dragonfly to continue our combos. We then have 3 Inzektor Picofalena, which can actually equip what it's intended to equip with its effect in Inzektors, and also shuffle back Centipedes for further combos. We have 1 Seraphim Papillon as our link 3 to bridge into our link 4s, 2 giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas as our endgame boss monsters, and 1 Appaloosa to finish off the extra deck. Now it's at this point that we reach the combo component of our deck profile. Now, fair warning, the combos for Inzektors get pretty crazy and can be very long, but they always often begin when we amass a way into a Dragonfly, a Hornet, and then any additional equip. Thus, for the sake of time, I'll only be doing one set combo to showcase the potential board you can produce with that setup, and then do a single test hand. If you want me to do more combos, then comment down below expressing your interest, and maybe I'll make a combo extender video in the future to showcase more combos. With that being said, I believe the deck is shuffled, the field is ready. Let us begin. Starting with our set combos, as mentioned in the intro, this set combo can be executed whenever we open a Dragonfly, a Hornet, and any Inzektor equip, whether it be a Giga Inzektor or an Inzektor Sword. Now, it's important to point out that this combo can be executed whenever you amass these 3 cards, not necessarily when you see them in an opening hand, meaning at some point in your combos, if you get these 3 cards, you can go into the combo. But let's say for this scenario, we open them in our opening hand. What can we do? Well, we can start by normal summoning out the Dragonfly and then activate its effect. We're going to use dice to know it's used its effect to equip a Hornet. From there, we'll activate the effect of our Giga Mantis, equipping it to our Dragonfly, before then activating Hornet's effect to launch both of them away. In doing so, trigger Dragonfly's effect twice to summon out 2 Centipedes. From there, we're going to activate the effect of one of our Centipedes to equip the Hornet from our graveyard, and then launch the Hornet using its own effect to destroy our own Dragonfly. In doing this, we're going to trigger Centipede's effect to search for an Inzektor card, of which we'll grab the other Giga Inzektor that we do not have in the graveyard, in this case being the Weevil. From there, I'll equip the Weevil to that Centipede before activating the effect of the other Centipede to equip the Hornet once more from our graveyard, and activate Hornet's effect to destroy my own Giga Weevil. In doing this, both my Centipedes will trigger alongside the Weevil in my graveyard, of which I'll use to bring back the Dragonfly. Centipedes will then resolve, allowing me to then grab from my deck a Ladybug alongside a Sword. From there, since we've used up both of these Centipedes, we're going to link both of them away to summon out our first extra deck monster in an Inzektor Pico-Falena. Pico-Falena on summon will then trigger, allowing me to discard the Ladybug in my hand to target my own Dragonfly, in doing so equipping it with an insect from my deck, of which it will be another Ladybug. Now that Ladybug is equipped to my Dragonfly, I can then activate Ladybug's effect, launching it, changing it to a level 4, to then summon out another Inzektor through Dragonfly's effect, of which this case will be our last Centipede. Centipede will then activate, and I'll use it to equip the Ladybug, of which I'll then launch the Ladybug to trigger Centipede's effect once again, this time to grab a Zektrico. We're going to activate that Zektrico, sending the Centipede to the graveyard to then summon out a second Dragonfly from our deck. Now that all 3 Centipedes are in the graveyard, we can activate Pico-Falena's second effect, targeting 1 Centipede, 2 Centipede, 3 Centipede, shuffling all 3 into the deck to then draw a card. We're just going to leave it here like that. Now, we haven't used any of these Dragonfly effects, so we're going to activate one of the Dragonfly effects to once again re-equip the Hornet in our graveyard, of which will then equip Sword to our Dragonfly. We'll then activate the effect of our Hornet, destroying the Sword, to then trigger Dragonfly twice, as well as the Sword in the graveyard, to grab back the unused Giga Inzektor that we haven't used the revival effect of, being the Mantis. Dragonfly will then resolve to summon out 2 of the Centipedes that we shuffle back. From there, we'll then activate the effect of the other Dragonfly to equip, in this scenario, a Ladybug, launching Ladybug to turn the other Dragonfly that we just summoned to a level 4 as well, but triggering Dragonfly's effect to summon out the third Centipede. From there, we'll sequentially activate each of these Centipede's effects, re-equipping the Ladybug and launching Ladybug to turn them all into level 4s and searching 3 times, of which I'll grab a Dragonfly, a Mantis, and a Sword. From there, with a field full of level 4s, we're going to overlay 2 of these, one being the Dragonfly, one being the Centipede, to summon out a Daigusto Emerald, before then linking away the 2 Centipedes to summon out a Beetrooper Armorhorn. Beetrooper Armorhorn will then give me an extra normal summon out the last Dragonfly, before I then link away the Armorhorn and the Dragonfly to summon out our Seraphim Papillon. From there, we're then going to activate Daigusto Emerald's effect, detaching the Centipede to then target once again all 3 of the Centipedes in my graveyard, shuffling them back in the deck to draw another card. From there, you know where this is going to go. I'm going to equip a sword to my Dragonfly, activate Dragonfly's effect, to then equip the Hornet, and then use the Hornet to destroy my own sword to trigger the sword once and the Dragonfly twice, summoning out 2 centipedes from my deck. With the sword then grabbing back a Dragonfly in my graveyard. Now we're at 5 cards, but we're not going to stop there. We're then going to activate the effect of one of our centipedes to equip a Ladybug and then launch it to search one more time, of which this case I'll grab a Inzektor. I'm then going to link away the Daigusto Emerald, the Inzektor Picofalena, as well as this used up centipede to summon out our first negation in a 3 negate Appaloosa. From there, I'll then activate the effect of my centipede to equip a Hornet, before then equipping a Inzektor Gigamantis to my Dragonfly, of which I'll then activate Hornet's effect, destroy the Gigamantis, to trigger Dragonfly one last time, trigger Centipede one last time, and trigger Gigamantis finally to summon back a Centipede, and then special summon a Centipede from our deck as well. At this point, we really don't need to search. At this point, actually would be detrimental for our follow-up plays to do so. So in this case, instead, we're then going to link away the Seraphim Papillon alongside the Centipede to summon out our giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas, before we'll activate its effect to tribute the Centipede, summon out from our deck the Sting Lancer, of which Sting Lancer will then search us the Flying Sting. Finally, we're going to overlay both the Centipede as well as the Dragonfly as level 3s to summon a Cicada King, set the Beetrooper Flying Sting, and pass turn to our opponent. Now, as always, let's do a quick head count here. Right now, what we've amassed on the board is a number of monster negates. First off, we have a Cicada King, which can negate and then revive one of our Inzektors for a follow-up play. We also have a Appaloosa with 3 negates as well. We have a Flying Sting for a 4th negate, and then we also have an impenetrable monster in our giant Beetrooper Giant Atlas. So in total, we have enough monster negates to prevent any of our opponent's plays, absolutely. But what's really scary about this board isn't necessarily the amount of negations we have, it's the fact that we can do it again next turn. Amassed in my hand is a Inzektor, a Gigamantis, and a Dragonfly. By equipping the Dragonfly with the Gigamantis and then launching with Inzektor, I can use Gigamantis' effect to bring back a Picofalena, of which Picofalena can then shuffle back all the Inzektors to then allow me to do my play all over again. And that is the true power of Inzektors, not necessarily just building a board, but building the second and third turn board and doing it all over again to always put enough game on board at every turn, while still potentially clearing the field. Going into our test hand, the hand that I'm going to be working with today is going to consist of 1 Beetrooper Flying Sting, 1 Gigamantis, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Zecalibur, as well as 1 Centipede. Okay, so looking at this hand here, this hand clearly isn't Dragonfly Hornet equipped. It's close. We have the Foolish for the Hornet, we have the Gigamantis for the equip, but we've opened Centipede instead. So where do we go from here? Well, it's actually rather simple. We're going to start by normal summoning out that Dragonfly, or Centipede, and then we're going to activate the Foolish Burial to send the Hornet from our deck to the graveyard. From there, we'll activate the effect of our Centipede to equip that Hornet, before then equipping a sword to our Centipede, activating Hornet's effect to destroy our own sword. In doing this, sword will trigger to grab back the Hornet, while Centipede will trigger twice to allow me to grab from my deck a Inzektor, as well as another sword. Now, it's fortunate that somehow the sword got me back the Hornet, because now we can activate the code to send the Hornet in our hand to the graveyard to summon out from our deck the Dragonfly. And would you look at that, we have a Dragonfly on the field, we have the Hornet in the grave, and we have the equips in hand. We are off to the races now. We're going to activate the effect of our Gigamantis, equipping it to our Dragonfly. We're going to activate Dragonfly's own effect to equip the Hornet, to use the Hornet to destroy our own Gigamantis. In doing this, we will summon out 2 Centipedes from our deck. From there, we'll activate one of the Centipedes, and we're going to use it to equip the Hornet, but then we're going to activate the other Centipede to equip the Gigamantis to it instead. We're going to activate Hornet's effect to destroy our own Gigamantis. In doing this, we'll trigger Centipede's effect to search twice, of which we'll grab a Ladybug and a Dragonfly. Why are we doing this? Because we're first going to link away 2 of these Centipedes to summon out from our deck an Inzektor Picofalena, of which Picofalena will then activate, allowing me to discard the Ladybug to equip to my Dragonfly another Ladybug. Like before, Ladybug will activate, launching into the graveyard to trigger my Dragonfly once more, of which I'll summon out a Hornet, which I can then link away with the remaining Centipede to summon out my Armor Horn. Armor Horn giving me an extra normal summon to summon out the Searched Dragonfly, of which I'll then link the Dragonfly that's being used alongside the Armor Horn to summon out a Seraphim Papillon. From there, now that all my Centipedes are in the graveyard, I can activate Pico Falena's effect, of which I'll take Centipede, Centipede, and Centipede, and shuffle them straight into my deck to draw a card. From there, we'll then equip the sword to our Dragonfly, and then activate Dragonfly's effect to equip the Hornet, of which we'll use Hornet to destroy our own sword to once again trigger Dragonfly twice, trigger the sword once to grab back our Dragonfly, and special summon from our deck 2 Centipedes. From there, we'll activate the effect of one of our Centipedes, equipping to it the Ladybug, launching the Ladybug to then search for an Inzektor Gigamantis. We're then going to equip the Gigamantis to our Dragonfly, activate the Centipede effect to equip the Hornet, launching the Hornet to destroy the Gigamantis to special summon 1, search 1, of which will summon out the last Centipede. And then we're going to resolve Centipede's effect to search for the Koa. Lastly, we're going to activate the Centipede's effect, equipping a Ladybug from our graveyard to launch a Ladybug to search one last time, of which we're then going to search a Giga Weevil for later. Finally, with all these materials amassed, we're first going to link away 2 of these Centipedes alongside our Pico Falena to summon out our 3 Negate Appaloosa, before then activating the effect of the Armor Horn in our graveyard. We're going to banish the Pico Falena, we're going to banish a Ladybug, and we're going to banish a Hornet since we have 2 of them to summon back the Armor Horn, and we're going to link it alongside the Seraphim Papillon away, of which we can then summon out our giant Beetrooper Invincible Atlas. Now, we don't actually need to sack anything for it since we already opened the trap, which means we are now free to overlay both our Dragonfly and our Centipede to summon out the Cicada King, of which I'll then take the Beetrooper Flying Sting, set it, and then pass turn to my opponent. And that's going to do it for our Inzektor deck profile. So, what are my final opinions on Inzektors? Well, I don't say this a lot, but I think this deck has the potential to be meta. We already saw the success of Beetroopers in the metagame prior to Grand Creators, and Inzektors is a deck that can utilize the same engines as Beetrooper, but with a much greater ceiling. The deck is very good at pivoting from going first or second and from being aggressive to being control. And thanks to Zek Trico, the deck has finally achieved the consistency it needs to get those crazy 3-card setups very easily, which only makes this deck even crazier going up against the expected metagame. So I think with a bit more lab work and a bit more practice, this deck could definitely do some big things. But regardless, this has been Tony, your deck architect with an Inzektor deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.